Hello, I'm Julie. Thanks for joining me today. In this video, I'll be unboxing my latest journal from the Archer and Olive Fall Collection, which released last week. I'll also be doing an update of my reading journal for 2025, and I'm hoping by making this video, you'll help me with a little problem I have. I have only recently fallen down the Archer and Olive rabbit hole, mainly because they're based in the US and shipping is too expensive, but there are a couple of online shops here in the UK that now stock Archer and Olive notebooks. My first purchase was this absolutely gorgeous storybook journal, which to date is still my favourite. This one I am using as a creative journal, and I really like the square size because it gives me a lot of room for journaling. These are some pages that I've made. You may have seen these videos on my channel. But I'm really enjoying the size of these and the ability to use it to make more adventurous pages with flaps and Dutch doors. My second Archer and Olive purchase was this Moonlit Garden journal, which I had to have because the cover was so stunning. And after I bought this, I told myself I wasn't allowed to buy any more journals from Archer and Olive except one. And that was one that might be reading themed that I could use as a reading journal. This year I've made it a goal to try and get back into reading, and my target is to read 25 books, which may not sound very much to many of you, but I think I only read 1 or 2 books last year, so it's quite a jump for me. Of course, when I saw this bookshelf collection, it just ticked all the boxes, and the big decision I had to make was which size to get. Just show you the box before I take it out. There's the Forest Findings label of the collection. I've realised that although I really love the boxes, the storybook one that I'm using as my creative journal is already too thick to fit back in the box, so you have to use your boxes for something else. Can't really use them to store your journals in. It's probably a good thing they come in boxes, because I did notice that this corner is a little bit dented. Probably because our postman didn't bother to knock at the door, even though it said fragile on the box. He just shoved it through the letterbox and I heard it hit the floor with a bit of a clang. Hopefully the box has protected the journal inside. Yes, I can see we've got a bit of a dent on the corner there. So I'm excited to have a close look at this. Ooh, it is so pretty. Let's get it out and check the corners are okay. Yes, they seem to be, so well protected. There were 2 versions of this bookshelf release. One was a pre-printed reading journal with pages already done for you, and one was the opportunity to have it as a notebook with either dot grid, lined or blank pages. It was available in square, and I was tempted by the square version because the bookshelf was larger and they'd added a little bit more detail. So I did really love that cover, but I couldn't get away from the fact that I was going to use this as a reading journal, and this size just looks like a book to me, whereas the square version doesn't quite have the same look. Also, I thought it'd be a good chance to try the Archer and Olive A5 size for the first time. I'm not going to be making Dutch door pages, I don't think, in this journal, or who knows. I might get adventurous. Isn't this spine absolutely heavenly? I really love it. And it's a vegan leather cover. I don't like the cloth covers, so vegan leather suits me just fine. I knew that this was going to be really popular, so I was ready at 20 minutes to 3 to get this from Under the Rowan Tree, which is the online store that I shop from here in the UK. Ooh, this is so pretty. I got my order in at 1 minute past 3, and I think it sold out about 5 minutes later, so I was really pleased. It's got nice white pages. The colour of the page is a deal breaker for me. I have to have white pages. I don't like cream pages or off-white pages. It cost me £35.45. I did have a 10% discount code because I hadn't ordered from Under the Rowan Trees for a little while, so they sent me that to tempt me back to their website. We have a little bookmark, or 2 bookmarks I think, in this nice beige colour, and we've got a gold ampersand. I was a little bit worried about what the colour would be like of this journal in reality, because they said it was a warm grey, but it's not a warm grey to me, it's brown to me, and that's fine, that's what I expected it to be. But sometimes when you see flip throughs of these things online, they don't always turn out to be the colour you'd expect. You have a pocket at the back, which I sometimes use for little pieces of the paper that I cut up in my other journals. The pen loop is always black, which I think is a shame. It would be nice if they colour coordinated the pen loop with the journal, but apart from that, I'm really happy with it. And you have the elastic closure. Amazingly, I think it was under 10 minutes after I placed the order, I got the email from Under the Rowan Tree to say that it had been shipped. And the estimated delivery was Friday, and I ordered it on the Wednesday, but it actually arrived the very next day in under 24 hours. So I was very impressed. It's really cool to be able to get something that even in America people are waiting longer for, because we often don't get things first. So it was really nice to get this in my hands before most other people. Now, of course, I have a big dilemma, because this journal is absolutely gorgeous and I know that I want to use it as my reading journal, but I already have started a reading journal for 2025 and we are more than halfway through the year. This is what I've been using from Daisy. It's a dot grid journal too. It was the very first dot grid journal I bought, and I've used it for all sorts of things, like keeping a track of what alphabet stencils I've bought from Daisy, doing some planet pages, trying out these horizontal Dutch doors for the first time, trying out some vintage stickers that I got from AEB Plans, and of course my reading journal. If I can find it. 25 to read in 2025. So today I'm going to do a little update of how I'm getting on. But what I'm wondering is, should I switch from this journal to this journal, or save this one for next year? I'll talk through my thoughts as I do my updating, and then hopefully you will let me know what you think at the end of the video in the comments. Because I use this journal for a little bit of everything, I also have a TV and film tracker, and I tend to update those all at the same time, so we will start with that. I haven't actually watched any more complete series of anything, but these are my series tracker pages that I made with the journaling sticker book from Happy Planner. I photocopied the page and cut these out to track all my series. So I hope you don't mind me doing this quickly before we get to the reading part. I've watched just 2 more episodes of Call the Midwife with Mum and Dad. We've tended to prefer playing games to watching TV over the last few months. And last time I did an update, I was getting into The Good Doctor, but I've stalled and just stopped that. I have started watching Chicago Fire, the new season, and I've watched quite a bit of that. Quite enjoying it, although missing Bowden, who was a major character from the previous season. Don't think I'm giving any spoilers because I'm quite behind where people are in the US. The Resident finally became available on my TiVo box, and I'd seen the first 3 seasons. I'd actually seen season 4, but I decided it had been such a while I needed to do a rewatch, so I'm rewatching that at the moment, and then I will be able to see the conclusion. I think it's gone down a little bit in season 4, and I know a major character is going to leave in season 5, so I'm not sure that I'm going to enjoy the latter seasons as much as the original seasons, but that's often the way with TV shows. One of the reasons I haven't watched as much of the shows that I'm supposed to be watching is because I got a little bit distracted and started rewatching EastEnders, which is a classic BBC drama that's very popular here in the UK. It's a soap opera, quite a miserable soap opera, lots of gloomy people and lots of bad things happen, not much happiness for the characters, or if they are happy, it doesn't last for long. But I'm enjoying watching older episodes as well as I've started watching the newer episodes as well. So I'm really enjoying that, but it has distracted me from all the other shows I was meant to be watching this year. Now, before I get on to my reading journal, I thought I would show you how my film tracker was looking and update that. I made this in a video a while back. It's not a full-on review, it's just to keep track of what films I watched in the year and what I thought of them. So I decided all I would put was the title, the year, whether I watched it on the telly or at the cinema, give it a rating out of 5, and then try to sum up the film in very, very few words, which was quite challenging but did make me really think about what I thought of the film. As you can see, I don't watch an awful lot of films. I'm more of a series person. But these are all shows that I've never seen before, whether they are new or old. You can see there Beetlejuice, that's not the new version of Beetlejuice. I finally watched the 1980s Beetlejuice and I gave it a 0. Apologies to those of you who are Beetlejuice fans. I know Happy Planner had a Beetlejuice release, which was what got my interest in it, but I've put probably one of the worst films I've ever seen. Really, really struggled to get to the end of that. I've been to the cinema twice to see Snow White and Mission Impossible, and I went to the cinema last week, so I'm going to add that one in now. Found I had these stamps that I'd bought a while ago for my scrapbooking from Kelly Creates, I think, Hero Arts. I got them from Amazon, and they have things like the little stars and the camera and the TV, plus some words and a little film strip. So these were perfect to use for this. And also I wondered about using the stars for my reading journal next year. Although I've now told myself I'm not allowed to buy any more Archer and Olive journals, I did think that if one came up that I could use as a TV movie journal, that might be another one I might get. But honestly, I have spent enough lately. The film I went to see last week was Jurassic World Rebirth. It was actually the same day as the Archer and Olive release, so I was in a bit of a rush. I left quite late, but I managed to get there in time. But shopping for planner supplies wins out over the cinema every time. I got the star stickers from this Girl Power sticker book, and I'm not sure whether I'll fit all the films I watched this year on these pages, but if not, I can just carry on the next page. I use these checklist strips to make the film strip. I'm giving it 3 out of 5. The characters were fairly likeable and the film was enjoyable enough, but I wasn't too keen on the mutant style dinosaurs. Give me a good old T-Rex and Velociraptors like the original, and then I'll be happy. Now onto my reading journal, and I haven't read an awful lot more since the last time I filled this in, and all the books I've read have been by Freida McFadden. Not all of these, but I've read 4 of them. I've been reading books recommended by Mary Ellen from Planning with Bumble, and I finally took the plunge with my first Freida McFadden book, and that was The Perfect Son. My favourite genres are probably romance and science fantasy with dragons and swords and adventure stories. And my favourite author is Terry Brooks, who wrote the Shannara series. But I'm giving something new a try this year. I read physical books. I picked up 3 Freida McFadden books from The Works. I think it was about £7.50 if you bought 3. The Perfect Son, The Housemaid and One by One. But I also put a request in at my local library for some Freida McFadden books, and they came through, so I read those first, and I've still got the others to read. I got The Tenant, which I believe is a more recent one, The Boyfriend, and then The Locked Door. I am looking forward to reading The Housemaid because that's probably the one that I hear talked about the most. Let's fill in the ABC. Yes, we've got The Perfect Son. The Tenant, so I'm doing well so far. The Locked Door I can't put in because I've already got an L, but we have got B for The Boyfriend. Here are my review pages. I don't go into great depth with my reviews, which is why I didn't buy the pre-printed bookshelf journal from Archer and Olive. I felt that 4 pages was rather a lot. I think maybe they will tweak it next year because a lot of people commented the same, as there were only spaces for 24 reviews or 32 reviews depending on which size journal you got. But a friend of mine picked up the A5 size and said it's absolutely perfect. I can see the appeal of having everything laid out for you, and the quality, she said, was excellent, as you would expect from Archer and Olive. I use my phone to print out the pictures. All I do is go to Amazon and screenshot the cover of the book. Then I crop them in my iPhone photos, go into my Canon printer app, and there's an option to print these little 9 pictures on this 4x6 photo paper. So it's perfect, I don't have to do much thinking about it. For some reason these have come out larger than the ones I used last time, which does bother the perfectionist in me. I should have written down exactly what setting I used the last time I did this. I went into this book knowing that Freida McFadden is known for her twists, so of course I spent the whole time trying to work out what was going to happen. It's about a missing girl and a mother whose son was the last person to see the girl alive, and whether or not he really was the perfect son. Kept me guessing all the way to the end, and I was rooting for the girl to be found. I'm not giving any spoilers. But I didn't see the twist coming at all. It was very readable, it's not very highbrow, it didn't really evoke an emotional response in me like The Nightingale did. I do think it deserves the 5 I'm going to give it because of the fact that I was just totally addicted to it for the whole day. I couldn't do anything else but read on to find what was going to happen. Maybe that happens with your first Freida McFadden book, whichever one it is. But this one in particular really gripped me. The next one I read was The Tenant, and this one was from a male point of view, which I hear is not usual in Freida McFadden's books. I didn't particularly warm to the main character. In fact, I'm not sure how likeable any of Freida McFadden's characters are, having read a few of her books. It's about a guy who loses his job and has to take in a tenant who starts making his life a misery. But I didn't find this one as gripping as The Perfect Son. I found I was able to put this book down, leave it and come back to it. I didn't have that need to get to the end to find out what was going to happen, although I did read it in just a couple of days, mainly because it was due back at the library. It did of course have a twist, but I didn't think the twist was particularly one that you could guess. It sort of came a bit out of left field for me, whereas I'm thinking that the fun of reading Freida McFadden is thinking that you know what's going on, even if you do turn out to be wrong at the end. With this one, I didn't really have a clue what was going on until it came to the final reveal. Still an enjoyable read though, so I'm giving it a 3. I think I'm going to need to make some new pages for the next 2. I have this quad stencil from Daisy that I use to draw the boxes. It's been a while since I've used it, so I hope I remember how to do it. I'll probably speed this part up. I actually completely forgot how I made that page. I need to go back and watch the video from last time because I can see I got a perfect circle there. So I obviously drew around something, whereas this one I've drawn myself and it's very wobbly, but it will do. I managed to tidy it up a little bit. I'm using Planning Things I Love Books for the quote in the middle. Just make sure I'm not going to repeat one. The library is calling and I must go. And I need to put a little review at the top. So I should have left a little gap, but I'll use my Jelly Roll pen. The next Freida McFadden book I read was The Boyfriend, and I wasn't a big fan of the main character. It's about a girl called Sydney who's looking for the perfect man, but she didn't seem particularly clever to me, and there were some definite red flags that she should have been aware of but seemed to completely ignore. So I don't know whether it was for that reason that I didn't like this one as much. Freida McFadden's books are always easy to read. So this was another one I finished in just a couple of days, but it wasn't one that I couldn't put down and I wasn't too invested in the outcome. It had the usual twist at the end, but this one had probably my least favourite ending, with things not quite tied up the way I would have liked them to be. There's always that extra double twist at the end involving the main character, which is meant to leave you wondering or a little bit shocked. But in this one, I couldn't believe the main character's reaction to the twist at the end, and it made me like her even less. I'll still give it a 3 for being quite readable, but it was less of a case of wanting to finish it to find out what happened than just to finish it and get it over and done with. The last one I read was The Locked Door, which is about a girl called Nora whose father had apparently kept people in the basement of the house under this locked door. I don't think that's a spoiler because it says it on the back of the book. Nora was a doctor trying to step out of the shadow of her past, but it seemed as though someone was trying to make it look as though she was following in her father's footsteps. I didn't mind the main character and the plot. Although, would you really live in a house with a basement if that had happened to you? And I guess after you've read a few Freida McFadden books, you get to see a pattern and things that happen that give the twist away. So this was the first time I actually guessed who was behind everything, but I didn't have a clue what the motive was. So I still had a surprise at the end, but I enjoyed this one much more than The Boyfriend. So I will give this one a 4. My dilemma is whether I wait till 2026 to use my Archer and Olive reading journal or to transfer over what I've done so far in this one. There are a couple of reasons why I'm thinking of using the journal now. One of them being that I restarted my reading journey in 2025, so it makes sense to have the journal starting from 2025 rather than to have the 2025 pages in this one, and then the rest of my reading journey in that book, which I'm expecting is going to last me quite a few years. Also, this was my first time setting up reading pages, and some of them haven't turned out exactly the way I would like them to be. So the perfectionist in me wouldn't mind doing them again and making them even better. Or do you think that's absolutely crazy and I should carry on in this journal, use this as a sort of experimentation, and then hopefully be a little bit more informed about how to create my journal for 2026. I'm a little bit off track with my goal of reading 25 books in 2025. I should have read about 15 by now, and I've only read 10. The next book I'll be reading is The Crash, because I've got this one out from the library and it's due back in a couple of weeks. But I also have The Housemaid and One by One to read. Although I am thinking maybe I should have a little break from Freida McFadden after finishing The Crash, just because the books are a little bit samey. If you'd like to give me any book recommendations, then do put them in the comments and I'll see if I can find them in my library. Thanks so much for joining me for this video. If you are in the UK, then you can still get hold of the printed version of this bookshelf Archer and Olive journal from Sutiki Stickers. But although Under the Rowan Trees did have a restock, they've already sold out of this version and the plain and lined version, I believe. Please help me make a decision about what to do for my reading journal for the rest of the year and whether to use this one or this one. I'll be filming another reading journal update in a couple of months. So remember to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell if you want to find out what I decided and see some more of my journal pages. Until then, take care and have a great weekend.